Welcome back to Fresh Corduroy. I'm Craig Zolan. Today's guest is someone who has been at the center of American ski racing for decades. Peter Dodge spent more than 30 years as the head coach of the Dartmouth ski team, building one of the most respected programs in collegiate skiing and helping shape generations of athletes along the way. Before that, Peter had a remarkable career as a racer himself, coming out of the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, winning the overall Can-Am circuit in the 1970s, skiing on the U.S. ski team, and later becoming Rookie of the Year on the Professional Ski Racing Tour. At Dartmouth, he coached athletes who went on to the World Cup and the Olympics, and helped guide a program that consistently competed at the highest level of NCAA skiing. In this conversation, we talk about his journey from Vermont rope tows to the World Cup, and what makes Dartmouth such a unique pipeline for elite ski racers, the realities of recruiting and developing college athletes, and where he thinks the future of collegiate ski racing is headed. Now, let's get some fresh corduroy with Peter Dodge. Peter, welcome to Fresh Corduroy.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on.
I am glad to have you here. I'm excited to have the conversation with a former NCAA coach who isn't bound by all sorts of recruiting compliance rules, so we can have an honest and frank conversation. So before we dig into that, I want to hear about the Peter Dodge skiing origin story. Where and when did you get started skiing?
Well, I grew up in northeastern Vermont, called actually the Northeast Kingdom, and learned to ski at Burke Mountain primarily, and also a little rope tow hill called Linden Outing Club, which still operates, and also in various backyards. My father was he was a racer in college back in the 40s, I guess, and he continued to be a masters racer almost into his late 80s. So I got started with me and my brother, who's a year and a half older, and a couple other families in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Started skiing, and those were my coaches until I was in high school.
And when you were in high school, I don't know your background. Did you go to a ski academy or something similar?
Well, I went to the local high school, which was it was a local high school, but it was also a semi-private school that served the community. So had a little flexibility there to, chase ski races, get out in the afternoons, and we had a local ski hill nearby. Burke Mountain Academy started in my senior year. That was the first year when Burke Mountain Academy started. So I had been skiing there, well before the academy, and then got involved with the academy coaches and Warren Witherall, who started it, and that's where I first got into a real program.
Yeah, and but ski racing, aside from coaching, you had quite a career as a ski racer for a period of time. So from a local semi-private school in northern Vermont, how did the evolution of Peter Dodge as a ski racer evolve?
Well, we started out skiing, in the Vermont League, Vera, as it's called now, and about 19, when I was probably a sophomore in high school, I think I qualified for, the junior nationals. So I was on a regional team. As early as 1973, I qualified for a U.S. development team. And then in 1975, I competed in the Can-Am, which is now the Nor-Am, and won the overall Can-Am in 1975. That put me on the B team, raced on and off the U.S. ski team. I think I raced 2 years on the U.S. ski team. They dropped me. I did what a lot of kids are doing today. I independently decided they wanted me to come back after I had some good December races and ski on the development team, but I said, the heck with that, I've been there. And I just took off and went to Europe on my own with a couple of buddies as serviceman and coach, and had some really good Europa Cup results, and ended up with probably the best slalom points in the nation behind Steve and Phil. So, on the team again, did some World Cups, just missed the Olympics in '80 when I got, again, dropped from the team. But at that point, when they called me up in the spring and said, well, we're not going to rename you, I, without even thinking, hung up the phone and said to my brother who I was sitting next to, I just turned pro. So I joined the Pro Tour in 1979-80 and spent 9 years on there. And that was a great experience. Was Rookie of the Year, Pro Skier of the Year a couple times. And so that's my racing career, from Northern Vermont Junior Racing, development team, Europa Cup, World Cup, Pro Tour.
And I recall your name as being a Pro Tour skier. In '75, I wasn't thinking about anything. But in the '80s, I obviously had more knowledge of what was going on in the skiing world, and certainly recall. I mean, the Pro Tour, in some respects, has come back. I mean, obviously in a different incarnation, but in those days, in the '80s, like the Pro Tour was something. It was it did recruit a lot of top tier skiers, and it was fun. It was televised. It was tell me and frankly the audience more about the Pro Tour of those days.
It was, when so 1980 and '81 were the last 2 years of Bob Beattie's World Pro Tour, which was hugely successful. We were on TV. We had traditional meets, big pro-ams. It was internet. We raced in Europe, Japan, all over the U.S. So it was a really exciting time. We had sponsors and servicemen, and then Beattie dropped the tour after '81 season after some just sort of, I guess, unappreciative acts by some racers who thought things should be organized differently, and he just said the heck with it. But at that time, there was also all kinds of satellite tours. There was the Coors Tour in Colorado, the Peugeot Tours in the East and the Midwest. Little Berkshire East had a St. Patty's Day, a one-run GS pro race, $500 for the winner, and if you won, you had to give the $500 to the bartender,
right,
to pay for the party after. But and then during that time, when all those small tours, there's just, you could pro race everywhere, anytime, any week, and then it coalesced back into again a national, international pro tour. But these days, some of the same people are trying to keep it going. They've had a few meets each year, but they're not getting much turnout from racers, and they're trying, and it's there, and it's still very exciting, but it's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I see them. I know that they were actually back east just recently at Tenny Mountain, which I don't know if maybe I raced at once upon a time, but it's smaller mountains, and head out west, I guess, sometime soon, I would imagine.
I think they might have an event coming up in Aspen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
So after the Pro Tour, how did you make your way to Dartmouth and or coaching first? How did you?
Yeah. Well, during my Pro Tour days, I'd done some coaching, just like at Mount Hood at summer camps as a guest coach, working with a bunch of ski friends who ran projects. But I went to Dartmouth. I enrolled in Dartmouth. Did not graduate. I was majoring in ski racing, like a lot of Dartmouth kids are. There are a lot of U.S. team skiers on Dartmouth who are on the 12-year program. So I was on a similar program at Dartmouth. So so that was my place. I never did get a chance to compete for them. I was always with the ski team in the winter. So after I retired from the Pro Tour, I spent 1 year in the industry working for CB Sports. And as a transition, then I decided, maybe I'll go back to school, think about finishing my degree. So I was looking for a like maybe a grad assistant coaching job. But the Dartmouth job came up in the spring. I applied for it, and for some reason they gave me the job as head coach, which I was very grateful for. And I just put everything into that. I loved it. I spent 33 years at Dartmouth, and now I've been retired this is the fourth winter since I've retired. So,
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of U.S. ski team athletes have called Dartmouth home at one point or another in their career. Why is that? I mean, it is if I look at current roster or, just to rattle off a few names, right? I jotted this down beforehand. Tommy Ford, Alice Merriweather, AJ Hurt, Trisha Mangan, who was on the podcast earlier this season, Nina O'Brien, Mary Bocock. And I could go on and on and on. It's pretty remarkable that the Dartmouth ski team recruits U.S. ski team athletes and hangs on to them, but there's got to be a bit of a give and take there. Given, like you said, you never raced for Dartmouth because you were skiing for the U.S. team. So how does that work in practice and reality?
Well, a couple things. It's been going on for a long time. Like myself, David Courier's another guy back even before me. Tiger Shaw, who was CEO of U.S. Skiing, way back. So a lot of it is the Dartmouth tradition. They have just a really strong skiing tradition. Guys like Dick Durrance, way back in the one of the iconic skiers from back in the 30s or 40s. So part of it is just the tradition of Dartmouth skiing. Dartmouth has had a skier in every single Winter Olympics, that has happened. So big tradition, and then the school they have the Dartmouth plan, a quarter system, which allows a lot of flexibility to enroll at different times of the year, maybe start in the fall, take a winter term off, go spring, go full term in the summer. So along with that very flexible and calendar, the administration, the academic people have been very flexible and willing to let people string things out. A great example is Andrew Weibrecht, who and a lot of these skiers were able to spend time and sort of recharge themselves by going to school or recover from injuries, like Tommy Ford and Weibrecht. But Weibrecht, he got some term. I think he got 3/4 of the way through. Took a hiatus of 4 or 5, I don't know how many years. When he retired from skiing, he came back. Great credit to him. Spent 3 terms in a row. At that time he owned a hotel. He had a family, but he graduated. Right. So I think so. Really, it's the tradition, the flexibility, and the commitment of the coaches while I was there and well before me, of being willing to support these skiers, even though they may not compete for us, because it shows so well for the school and the program. And Dartmouth, one thing, the sort of the Dartmouth motto, it's an academic institution, and a lot of their emphasis was on the pursuit of excellence. Yeah. So I felt that if I was sending a kid to the Olympics and not the NCAA championships, well, that's fulfilling the goal of just achieving excellence and the best that someone can be.
But from a practical matter, as a coach who's trying to put together a team that does well in the EISA and the NCAAs, it must present an interesting challenge, which is you've got this great roster of talent, but they may not ever put on a Dartmouth speed suit. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, it can be frustrating. I know, especially there's a lot of women now on the U.S. ski team who were maybe recruited with the hope they'd ski for us, and they haven't yet. But again, because those people are there, it attracts a lot of other skiers who do ski for us. It attracts skiers who, if they have that ambition to really become best in the world or make the U.S. ski team or ski World Cup, they know that we'll support them. But I've had skiers. I was very fortunate to have one of basically an Olympic gold medalist, Tanguy Neff, who's a Swiss skier.
Yeah.
He had an injury, was in the Swiss development system. I picked him up, recruited him. He spent 3 years and competed in 3 NCAA championships for us. And finally, in his senior year, he spent the full winter term with the Swiss team on the World Cup. But yeah, I mean, we got I think 4 NCAA championships out of him. So, and then AJ Guinness is a guy who skied. He was a medalist, world championship medalist in slalom, and who just retired. But he actually because he was injured so often, he did ski, I think, two meets for us. But we were able to get him again back to the World Cup after a lot of
So,
things to get through.
I mean, being at Dartmouth, the recruiting process looks, I imagine, a bit different than it would, say, at UVM or University of Denver or Colorado, et cetera. And certainly perhaps a little bit more similar to Williams College or Bates, Colby, given the Ivy League status of the institution. How does that work? You have to recruit more, right? You have to hold a bigger roster of team people because some of them may be off racing World Cups and not your carnivals.
I mean, so Dartmouth and most of the schools in the East, with exception, there's, the state universities, University of Vermont, UNH, a few others have actual scholarships.
Right.
We don't have NCAA scholarships, but we, and most of the schools you mentioned don't. I often like that a lot because someone was there because they wanted to be there. And we do have, I mean, really, our form of scholarships are, these schools are very selective, to get admitted to. So we get, it's varied over the years, but 2 to 3 spot recommendations we can make to admissions, and as long as they still have to be very well qualified academically, but that gets them in, and
Right.
And we do carry a little bit larger roster. It's been trimmed down lately, but maybe 8 to 10. 10 is sort of the optimal size. So you have a few people. You might lose a couple to injuries. You might lose someone to going to a bigger race, going to a World Cup or a NORAM. So, but
Right.
mostly it's academic. Sort of cards you can play with admissions to recruit skiers.
You're right. But yeah, no, I've been, looking at it, and you and I have emailed in the past about the current state of collegiate skiing and the age eligibility rules, and I do want to touch on that in a moment. But as I think about this, I'm sure there are parents or high school students who may listen to this and try and glean kernels of wisdom in terms of how to map out their progression. And so I guess, let me, a quick question, like for parents or racers who are, thinking about getting recruited for NCAA racing, what do they usually get wrong?
Well, it is, a lot of people have said that, or I don't know, complain or that there are very few spots available, and there are probably more than people think. When you look at all the schools, particularly in the East, there's a lot of spots, and so, pretty solid racers can make squads, and I've also seen a lot of kids who came in who weren't on anybody's radar. Maybe they made it to Bates or Colby or Williams, but as a freshman they weren't anybody you'd think about. But by the time they were seniors, because they had 4 years of steady carnival competition, they were winning races or placing in the top 10 and doing well. But it is very competitive. It's like any other sport. If you want to play NCAA basketball or hockey, you got to be pretty good. You got to be, really at the top of your class. So a lot of people get it wrong and think, well, why can't my kid, make the team? It is competitive, but there are schools at all kinds of levels in NCAA and all the way down, especially through USCSA, where there are places for everybody. Really, if you want to ski race in college, just about, even if you've never raced before, you can find a spot.
Yes, I had the executive director and another person from the USCSA on and talking about the breadth of their program and how it is really a big tent, and that's the intent of the USCSA. And you have low fist point racers. I don't know what the low points within USCSA is today, but could be 30 or 40 points.
Probably, yeah.
And then never evers basically. So a very wide range. But having gone through it with my own son, it's daunting to map both the academic criteria that one wants with the skiing level that you're at the moment, and finding that match is not easy. And so I think you have to cast a wide net and evaluate. I mean, am I off on that mark?
No, I think one thing I've noticed has had some people mention to me is you go to a regional FIS race, not even a development FIS or in the East, and probably 95% of the kids in that race are in a full-time, if not a full-time academy program.
Right.
That's really changed. Before you would have, a majority of the kids who are in, club programs, but, going to high school or going to a local school. But now, so that's just the way it is. And the academies are, the number one thing they tout is we're going to, we can get your kid to, that they promote how many kids they get to what schools. Very few of them, 1% of them, whether it's Burke or Stratton, will make the U.S. ski team. So their bread and butter is get that kid to college. So again, these are motivated kids. The academics are quite good if you pursue it. You have to be self-motivated. I've found that even at Dartmouth, where the standards are really high, if I take, say, the top 10 junior, racers in a category off the FIS list, a majority of them, maybe up to 7, 8 out of 10, have got the academic, standing to with a recruiting push, to do well at a top tier college. So, and I think that speaks a little bit to the, it's an expensive sport now. So the kids in it are, well funded. They have good resources. They're smart, generally really smart, and but they got to be motivated both academically and athletically to pursue it themselves. They can't just slide along and get there.
Where did it change? So there was an article that you wrote for skiracing.com at one point. It mentioned the EISA Division A and B, which sort of jogged my own memory because I was in Division B when I raced in college, and at some point it consolidated. There were a lack of schools, but interestingly, back then when I was racing, the Division B schools were Harvard, now Division I or Division A, Harvard, Colby, Bowdoin, they were all Division B when I was racing against them. And I think St. Mike's, that one I forget, Johnson State, which is no longer, there were a variety of schools. And a couple things. One, I did not go to a ski academy, albeit I did train during the summers with one. I went to a public high school and was on the high school ski team, and as a result got to ski during the week. And FIS racing, as you mentioned a moment ago, didn't seem as prominent. Again, I have a friend, same age, raced at Keene, which had a Division A program at the time, Keene State College.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't remember racing FIS. He's like, so when did this, I don't call it professionalization, with all the ski academies and the FIS racing sort of evolve, like when it went from my ability to race in a high school team and train to make a team versus today where you basically have to go to an academy and maybe do some PG years. Like, clearly the evolution has changed a bit.
Yeah, well, when I started at Dartmouth in 1980 season, and we raced the college races were USSA races, and we raced primarily in NARA, in Macumber Cup, NARA USSA level races. We were kind of the rabbits who would go to the local the local USSA races. And then a couple things happened. One, there was there've been a couple different age changes, which skewed people towards making a commitment to FIS races. And then also, we started running the college races as FIS University or FIS races. Oh, probably I'd have to look, but the 1985, 86, something like that. And it seems at that point, and really, there was a move at USSA to try to emphasize, USSA racing, but the problem was kids would they'd win the Macumber Cup or the Vera Cup, but then qualify for FIS, but they'd have 990 FIS in it. And there's also a big move now, which is I think very good, is they're really emphasizing sort of the old term success at every level, where race a FIS citizens race a ENL race a development race, and stay in your level and succeed in each lane. But USSS US skiing points have really all but disappeared. They really just aren't what, they're not used for anything really.
Right.
Even in, they're playing around with various seeding programs that mix up the field and don't even use points, which a lot of it is good. Let's not have young kids chasing points. Let's just have them competing and having fun. But at some point, ski racing is tough. You can't just jump into your first FIS race, and you got to work your way from running 140 to get in a position where you can maybe sometime make the flip and score some points. So, but yeah, it's gone entirely to FIS points. But they're trying to roll back the ability, or the people chasing all over the world. They say stay in your lane, stay in your region. Let's keep the expense down. Let's keep the travel down. But yeah, it's all there's hundreds of FIS races in the East every year.
Right. Yeah. They're all over the place, and it's challenging for a young high school student who is starting 140th at the beginning, and to I guess put things in perspective, because they probably were doing well at a U16 level, and not starting at the back of the pack and doing well. I have seen someone again start way back there and have come in 70th, and in reality they're scoring really good points because the field is so stacked, but they're skiing against 24-year-old college students, and that's kind of what you get. And so it can be demoralizing. My son in his first year FIS decided to go to the Eastern Cup finals, and it got warm, and he basically said it was he called it trench warfare. It was the ruts were so big that he was just being swallowed alive in them, and he's like that was kind of a wasted trip.
Well, I think developmentally they're particularly this year, in the East and in the U.S., they're really emphasizing, a broad spectrum of FIS races. So you can go to a entry league level race or a citizens level race, and where the best points are maybe 100, and you can go there and compete.
Yeah.
And then okay, you get to a level and you can move up in steps instead of let's just shotgun everyone into an Eastern Cup and 16-year-old kid competing against 24-year-old college racer and running last, and it's just like that's
Yeah, I think people need to take that into account more. I think I did a disservice for my son for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that age disparity, and that's one of the things where alpine skiing and interestingly ice hockey are the only two sports that have this rule vis-a-vis being able to take gap years between high school graduation and entering college and not losing any eligibility. What are your thoughts on that difference in the rules for skiing relative to everything else?
Yeah, no, I would like to see. I mean, the NCAA. It's a ponderous organization, and it presents a lot of challenges. While trying to sort of keep a level playing field. We're a small sport, and we got to fit into a lot of rules. That are surrounding the bigger sports. So it creates some challenges, not insurmountable, but just some challenges. And I think the age. I'm personally in favor of the age change. The age rule being the same as all the other sports. So essentially you could get away with doing 1 year PG year, and then if you graduate at 17 or 18, you could start college at 18 or 19, and that just fits. One, it fits the academic, how universities they're focused on taking kids from high school. And a college freshman fresh out of high school is not a very mature individual, Right. But they know that you're going to college and you're learning to grow up, and you're with your peers. When you start having your 23-year-old freshman, it's a whole different program. A lot of people will say, well, it gives you're going to take an opportunity away from these people, but I think the whole development progression would make a lot more sense if you just said, if college is your thing and you want to continue ski racing, well, let's go. There are a lot of good programs, and you can progress, and you don't have to have a lot of times 3 or 4 futile PG years. You finally get to college and you feel like you're ready to give up because you've spent all your time and money, but then there was just an article out. The age of maturity is like in peak in ski racing is 27 to 30 years old. So a lot of kids don't. Progression in skiing is slow. It's not instant, and it takes a long time to work your way up. So why not include college in it? Make it simple. Make it straightforward. I'm in favor of basically embracing the current NCAA age rule for most other sports.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I wrote an article about in ski racing was changing that rule because I thought it would open the pipeline up, which would benefit U.S. ski racing as a whole. If you're again that 17-year-old kid. Maybe you're not 140th, but you're starting 100th in that Eastern Cup race or NORAM or whatever the case may be, and getting beat up all the time, it's a bit demoralizing. And as you say, you need to sort of progress through the different levels.
Yeah.
And it just takes time. And, having to jump into a number of PG years before you could go to college, if that's the pathway you want to take, seems to encourage, I think, some kids just to drop it, even if they've been going to Burke or Stratton or GMVS or the Western ski academies. It's that NCAA ski racing or bust mentality. Yeah. And there are probably some of those kids that gave up that could have been very good if they had just stuck with it for longer.
Right.
And while I like USCSA for what it can offer, I don't think it's again, it's not quite the same. There's very limited FIS racing opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think from a systemic point of view, one would want to keep more kids in the sport for longer, which would benefit the U.S. ski team ultimately.
Well, I think a couple things important about college skiing I was thinking about is, aside from the pipeline to the World Cup, if college skiing is, I mean, for U.S. as a unique sports system with universities, there's nothing like it in the world, right. For good or bad, but what college skiing does for development and skiing in the U.S. is huge, because if college skiing went away, then it would completely blow up the kids when they become FIS age, decide, I better go to an academy, and the academies are there because we're going to get your kid academically and point wise into college.
Right.
If those kids have no avenue, that's what kids want to do in the U.S. I had a son who played hockey. He wanted to make a college team. He ended up eventually making a Division III college team and becoming captain his senior year. So that's what kids want to do. They want to play sports in college. And if skiing, college skiing didn't exist, it would just, there'd be nowhere for people to go, and it would really cut the sport off. So I think that's where college skiing is very important. As far as the, can we turn kids into world championships and U.S. ski team and World Cup skiers? There's been a lot of talk, a lot of articles, and a lot of good, talk from the U.S. ski team about, this is important. College is it's important to say is not the pipeline, but right. Many ways to go, but they haven't walked the walk at all. And a lot of that is just you got a lot of good but young coaches on the U.S. ski team, a lot of turnover there, and those coaches are kind of told, you're coaching the C team, and if you don't move 3 people up to the B team, you haven't succeeded in 1 year. You can't do that. I had probably the best relationship I had with a national governing body was with the Swiss team in Tanguy Neuf. Maybe that's because they've got 20 to 30 kids on their development team. If somebody wants to take a flyer and try something different, they were like, go for it.
Right.
But they were very supportive. Actually went to Europe one summer and met with Patrick Stouffer, the head coach, and just laid out the program, and here's what we're doing, here's what you can do. And it worked out great. Obviously, he just won a gold medal.
Right.
And so they were very willing to cooperate, and took a long, perspective. And, in 2 or 3 years of college skiing, Tanguy had, developed and reached a level, and we gave him the resources to do that. So, but it's been very challenging for the coaches. I think a lot of it is just the structure of U.S. skiing for them to, they just think we've got the best program, we've got all the resources. You've got to ski with us. You've got, and you've got to have a cooperative relationship that works both ways. Let's work together. We're on the same team. We've got the same goal. Use your resources. We've got great resources, money, support in college skiing, great competition. Let's coordinate for those individuals. And actually it's a 3-way. It's the ski team coaches, the college coaches, and the athlete.
Right.
It's got to be a 3-way commitment that, and it takes an incredible commitment from an athlete who's racing college, like you take like Paula Molson or some of those people who, you really got to be committed. You got to take charge. You got to make it happen. But that's true of anybody who succeeds at the World Cup. Everyone who succeeds, whether they go to college or not, they're an exception. They worked harder, worked smarter, persevered, and it, you got to have that no matter where you are to succeed.
And I think that, pays dividends down the road regardless, right? Even if it's not necessarily a World Cup podium.
Yeah.
One, in succeeding in one's career elsewhere, professional life, you got to work hard, right? I mean, that's basically success comes to those who want it. So
absolutely,
and are want it and work for it. So I think that's part of the academic mission of an institution is to teach them physics, but at the same time teach them how to be a mature adult and commit to one's goals and objectives.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what sport is. I often think you look at whether it's football or curling or skiing. They're all skiing. It's like, what is this? This is a silly sport. You go up and you ski around these gates, but they're just a vehicle for pursuing a goal and committing and learning and growing and just competing, because competition's fun, and testing yourself. Whether there's all kinds of crazy sports, but they all teach you the same lessons.
Yeah. So as a coach at the elite college level, how much is it the same, and how does it differ from the U14 coach that's down the road with the club program? Where, and perhaps the U.S. ski team, right? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis as a coach at that level? I'm always curious to say, how much of it is the same and how much of it is different.
Yeah, I mean it's I'm fortunate at Dartmouth to work with a somewhat small group of very committed and dedicated athletes who are there because they want to be there. Yeah. So there's not a lot of discipline or things. They're focused. Your college skiing, the challenge is, and it's a great life lesson, is okay, you just got out of class. We're going up. We got 2 to 3 hours to train. You got to switch your brain off of academics. Go up, do your skiing, then on the ride back from training, they've probably got their books out and they're studying again. So it's really being able to compartmentalize and focus. Technically, we just try to be efficient and focused and purposeful every day. But that's every coaching session you should have a goal. Today we're working on the outside ski, or today we're working on rhythm, or we're working on every session and every athlete, every run should be intentional. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm focusing on. Here's the mission for today. And you want to do that at every level. With young kids, it might be we're going to go out and free ski in the bumps and chase each other around the mountain. But because we're just going to have fun today. But you need to be focused.
Yeah, you used the word intention, and that word has come up repeatedly from one of your former athletes, Trisha Mangan. When she was on, we talked about being intentional, and Annika Hunt had also mentioned it in her time with me. It seems to me that those that are successful think about that, because they are maximizing the utility of on snow time, right? Which is, in the grand scheme of things, limited. If you're on a chairlift, you're spending 10 to 15 minutes going up and 60 seconds coming down. You got to maximize the on snow component.
No, that's interesting. One thing I learned from Tanguy Neff was, he's a very laid back kind of guy who was very difficult for the Swiss Germans to deal with, because he wasn't really. And we'd go up to train, and he'd some days I'd say, Tanguy, you're not giving 100%. You're not, you're a lot of your runs are kind of easy, or you go take a free run. You're not getting the 10 runs in. You're only getting 6. But what I learned is when he was taking a run, he might back off a little bit because he was thinking about something. He was working on something. He was always intentional about what he was doing, whether it was free skiing, where you'd have these other guys on the run on the team they were like, a dog on a bone. Every run it was like, out of the starting gate, 100%, hammer, 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 hammer. And at the end of the day, they just, they never stopped and thought and stepped back and figured out, what am I trying to do here? And then, and Neff would go up, and maybe 1 or 2 runs a day, he'd say, okay, now I'm going to try to put it together. So I learned, that seemed like he was laid back and a little lazy, but he was incredibly intentional about everything he did.
It's interesting that you said you learned from the athlete. What is that give and take between the student athlete at Dartmouth and the coach in terms of, in that situation, probably not just a one-way dialogue, if you will.
Yeah. No, I think, again, dealing with very, very smart and sometimes too smart, athletes, that's a challenge sometimes. But no, it's got to be two-way, and every athlete's a little different. You've got to find out what motivates them, how they learn, and listen to them. They know what's, I'm watching them go by, boom, they just went 5 gates. I don't know, what's it feeling like? What are you feeling? What are you thinking about? And then you try to, I try to create environments or set up situations that bring out what's in the best in the athlete. I think that's sort of one of my key coaching tenets is create a scenario or an environment or a course set that's going to elicit the responses that I need to see, as opposed to just telling them, move your line up and, pressure earlier or something,
So providing a, call it constraint-based, teaching environment, whether it's brushes or something else.
Again, being intentional about the course I'm setting today, this should, maybe it's just, I want everyone to feel good. I set an easy course. And just today we just want to get good feelings. Yeah. Or, we want to work on, accommodating terrain. So I'll set courses on a gate on every bump and knoll I can find. So you got to figure it out, figure out how to get through this course, because there's bumps and knolls and compressions all over the place. Things.
The old setting a course on a wave track is entertaining. What would you say, you're talking about how you coach, is there a defining coaching philosophy that you've sort of honed over the years?
I think, again, just trying to elicit a response, a lot of times indirectly. So we're going to do a certain drill. And I've found that certain drills, they'll be doing the drill and they go like, this has nothing to do with skiing. Why am I skiing on my inside ski or hopping? And I go, well, let's just do the drill. And then now let's jump in the course and see what happens. And something happens because they were kind of programming their body. And, so a lot of it is, setting an environment where people can learn and then, two-way street with them, find out what they're feeling, and what they want to do, and try to figure out ways to bring that out. And a lot of times that's indirect. You'll say something that, even as much as distracting them or thinking about something else, so something else happens, and then get them, did you feel that? Right. And then, because that's it. Once you feel it, you can't change it. But when you finally feel something, you go like, the light. The best moment in any coach's life was when the light bulb goes off, and they'll come back to you. Sometimes after 2 or 3 years, it says, "Hey, coach, I just figured it out." And I'm going like, "Yeah, I've been trying to tell you that for years, but wow, the light bulb went off, and all of a sudden, wow, they dropped 20 points off their fist points, and just figured it out."
Yeah, I think, look, everyone has a different learning style, and they learn through different means, whether it's visually or auditory or so your coaching has to adapt to that learning style of the athlete. And I know from personal experience, there was something that clicked I recall vividly to this day. My junior year of college, just about being clean and how to, the touch. I was always very harsh on my edges. I'd come into a turn. And of course, we're talking about the days when my slalom skis were 205s and GS were but 210s, so slightly different planks than. It took a while for things to click with me, but I did still remember it vividly. And so I think the coaching needs to adapt to, hey, let's try different things. What you were saying, the environment, again, going back to one of the other podcast guests, Scott Joe John, who's an instructor now, but was a UNH ski racer and has a little kid in a Park City program. And he said, we just, take the kids out and let them ski. And, if they keep landing on their butt, they know that they're sitting back, right? Like eventually they're going to figure out how to be centered and get their weight forward. So, teaching them through that experience and that constraint-based system.
Yeah. No, I had a coach who I skied very efficiently, and at the end of a day of training, he'd go, well, you got 10 runs, but you hardly got a workout in because you're so efficient. So now I want you to go ski that 10 runs down that mogul field, to get a workout and to, find your balance and, so, just again, you sending me to an environment without just go ski that,
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
What, in terms of looking back on your coaching career at Dartmouth, are there memorable athletes or moments that stand out for one reason or another?
Yeah, one is I had for 5 years in a row, one of my skiers won the NCAA slalom championship, and 5 straight years, and I remember every one of those runs, and there were different cases all the time, different things we did, coaching wise to make that happen. And it was a long process of, I saw someone might have the potential to perform well, and it was just keeping sort of a lot of times not getting in the way, don't screw it up, but keep someone's confidence, and sometimes it was tactics. Remember one of my skiers who, a guy, Carl Johnson, won the NCAA slalom at Steamboat, and he was kind of like a Bodie Miller type of skier who would not let a carve ski slide for anything, and usually it got him into trouble, like it did Bodie. I'm gonna make the pure carve, and so we went up, and I said, okay, I want you to ski 100% in a couple training runs, and then and then in the race, I said, I want, we worked on this. I want you to back off. I want you to ski 80% or 90% because your 100% is unrealistic. and then another scenario where Neff won Brian McLaughlin won a GS, is we had trained certain course sets, and I was a second run course setter. And so I set a course, and I said, you guys know what this is all about. And they ended up moving up from 4th and 5th to 1 and 2 in the race, were super satisfying. And they've talked about this in some of the World Cup, podcasts, and about course setters setting for their racers. But right. when it works, it feels really good.
Yeah. It's like you take a little credit, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah.
But they had guys how to perform, but you prepare them for it.
Right.
It didn't just happen. You prepared for it.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where do you think the future of ski racing is going, or more appropriately, collegiate ski racing is going? Obviously, I mentioned earlier there used to be a Division B in the EISA. It's consolidated, so it shrunk, although it's I think stabilized now. But like whether it's rules or either growth or contraction, like what is NCAA skiing?
There, as we speak, I've been spending the last month skiing all over the West at Indy Pass areas. Mostly little ski areas, friendly local hills. And I'm super impressed. There are a lot of people in a lot of little communities who love to go skiing. But I didn't see a single maybe one. I saw a race team once at a ski area in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and actually one day, I was up in Alberta, like a local team came by. But I saw very little evidence of any ski racing programs. So I'm kind of going, wow, there are a lot of kids on snowboards, a lot of kids on wide floppy tip, free ride skis.
Yeah.
So I'm going like, wow, where are all the kids just in Vail and Steamboat and in the academies? So that was a little scary, seeing like, how do you, and how do you motivate kids in a local community, like they do at Cochrane's, which is an amazing program. How do you? I admire the coaches now who keep those young, the little kids, 10, 12, 14-year-old kids motivated and wanting to run, chase gates, and so I think that's a challenge at that level. But and in college skiing, the NCAA, as I mentioned, that's a challenging organization. But ski racing at the bigger schools wouldn't exist without them because of the support NCAA provides. But also there was a time quite a few years ago when we were considering dropping out of NCAA skiing and just doing our own thing, because you take schools like Middlebury and Dartmouth and even UVM, who have a big tradition in ski racing, and we said we can just, we're running FISU races. We don't need NCAA to run FIS university races. Let's just do our own thing and define our own program. So there's some and there's a lot of challenges going on in NCAA right now with the NLI and the transfer portals and skiing a lot of times it looks like we're going to get really sidelined. So I don't know. I think the college skiing is strong. USCSA just added the McConnell Division FIS races. They've raised their level. As I said, there are a lot of people out there, kids who want to go to ski in college. So hopefully the college programs will continue to progress and work together. But there's also so many levels in college. There's the Dartmouths and the UVMs and the Denvers and Colorados, and then there's the Bowdens and the Boston colleges, and who have different academic missions and athletic missions. So it's a challenge to get everyone on the same page, and we don't need to be all on the same page either. But
right,
we've got to be, the colleges have got to be smart and work together and compromise and be creative to keep it going. But I think it's super strong right now. I mean, the competition is, the depth of competition in the races I've been to in the East, from the first to the last, is like, wow, these kids are all really good.
Yeah. No, it's fun to watch. I was able to go to a UVM makeup race down the road when they held it a few years ago at Catamount.
Yeah, that was a great race. I was there.
And that's a hill that my son trained on for the whole season. So it shows that you can have, if you could expose, let's put it this way, carnival racing to a broader audience, I think you may, again, continue to attract support and the people.
That was a super fun race because, the Schaefers who run the area are ski racing people, and we went there to this area no one had ever been to, and they were psyched to have us there. Everybody had fun. It was just nice to go to a place that we want you to come here and ski race, and we want you to have a good time, and want you to have a good race. And we chased way out the Western Mass, or actually New York State, in front of the border, and had a great race there. And that kind of support from ski resorts makes it fun for everyone. That was really great.
Hopefully I'll have John Schaefer on in the not too distant future. James is a little bit older, raced at UVM. Obviously that's perhaps why he wanted to bring the UVM Catamounts to Catamount ski area. But it was a lot of fun to watch, and I was tempted to get my son into the race, but he was just coming back from a different FIS race up in Whiteface, and it was just not possible. But I think the ski racing environment, if nothing else, is a lot of fun. I think, it's a different, maybe you should describe that. What is the environment of an NCAA carnival for the coaches and the athletes relative to other things?
That's what all the athletes and everyone will say about college skiing, whether it's someone who went to the World Cup or, they had teammates who supported them. They skied for the team. They had fun, and there's no, like, the coaches are all buddies. There's no, like, two football coaches not shaking hands at the end of a tough game. We hang out together. We work together to set up training. The athletes all know each other. They're cheering for everybody. It's just a great environment. Really fun. And a lot of people who have succeeded at the World Cup said that I've found my love for skiing again, with my college team. And because it was getting to be a drag, and now it's really fun. So great atmosphere, great coaches, great kids. Really fun. That's how I stayed there 33 years. It was just a great group of people to work with, athletes, coaches, and organizations. So it's a good deal.
That's great. Yeah. So in wrapping things up, if you were to give one piece of advice to a young ski racer who's dreaming of collegiate ski racing, what would that be?
Well, commit to your studies and commit to your skiing, and you got to be focused. You got to be your own best coach. You got to look out for yourself, but also be patient, be committed, and be your own best coach. But listen to the coaches and the people who want to help you, and just find your way through and stick with it. I've seen a lot of kids go from nobody knew them to World Cup racers. You can do it.
That's great. Great piece of advice. Well, thank you for joining me and taking some time out of your van tour of the Indy Pass Network.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I wish I could join you, but maybe in a few years' time. Right. Would love to do that.
Okay.
But again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yeah. Well, great. We'll look forward to catching the show.
Yeah, terrific. All right. That's a wrap for this episode of Fresh Corduroy. My thanks to Peter Dodge for sharing his perspective on ski racing, coaching, and the role collegiate skiing plays in developing athletes and lifelong skiers. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow or subscribe to the Fresh Corduroy podcast on your favorite platform so you don't miss upcoming episodes with leaders, athletes, and personalities from across the ski world. You can also follow at Fresh Corduroy Podcast on Instagram for clips and highlights from the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Fresh Corduroy.